Salutations and welcome, friends, to a very special Trust the Prophets Roundtable discussion about the 149th running of the Kentucky Derby. I am serving as the host and MC of the Roundtable today. My name is Matthew DeSantis, at Failed to Menace on Twitter. Joining me are my compatriots here at Trust the Prophets, the Formula, Colin Sheehan, El Hombre. We have gotten here, fellas. It's finally Derby week. How's everybody feeling? Are we operating on about 3 hours of sleep every night? We're putting out a lot of content here on Trust the Prophet, so make sure to press that subscribe button, like this video, comment below with your biggest takeaways for the Derby weekend. But excited to talk to you fellas about what has been a thrilling Kentucky Derby prep season, and now we're finally here for the actual race. And so let's just start off right with the big question, which is, what is everyone's impression of the 149th Kentucky Derby field? And in case you're tuning in, you haven't seen the post position draws yet, let's just share that field with you and the morning lines. And Formula, I'm going to start with you. What are your impressions of this Kentucky Derby field?
I think that it is very even at the top. I mean, there's probably like 5 or 6 horses that you talk to anyone, they could name as their favorite for the race. It's not like in some of the years past, a lot of people like Tis the Law a couple years ago. There's no, I think, one major favorite. I think Forte, having to come from behind in the Florida Derby, showed a little bit of weakness, or showed he could be exposed. So him going in at 3-1, I get it. He's the top horse, but he also opened up the door for us to criticize and pick other horses that we like, that we've seen maybe accomplish a little bit more towards the end of their Derby prep season. That's what I see here.
Absolutely. Colin, what are your thoughts and impressions of this Derby field of 20 horses running on May 6th?
I just think it's so intriguing and competitive. Those are the 2 words that I wrote down. And intriguing is the one that stands out to me, because you can go through and ask a variety of people what they think about this race, and you're going to get so many different opinions. And that's why I love this sport. That's why I love talking to guys like you. It's why I love talking to fans, because you can just go down the list. You know, someone like Two Phils, who last year we had Tis the Bomb coming off synthetic, and you're like, Two Phils has won on the dirt, and he's run well on the dirt. So you can take that question out of it. You can just go down the line. Confidence game, 10-week layoff. Tapit Trice gets an inside draw on a horse that loves to be outside. Go back and check out my video that showed all of his trips where he wants to get out and into the clear. Then you get DERMA SOTOGAKE, who gets the 17 post, which has never created a winner before. And you know, it's just, as you look at every single one of these, everyone has a little bit of a question mark, but also a little bit of an intrigue. And I think if you can name it, exacta, try, super, you're going to get paid almost no matter what the result is. And which I think that's what makes it, you know, the best betting race that we could be presented with.
Absolutely. El Hombre, you and I watched a great many of these prep races together here on the live stream. We finally got here. We've been talking about these horses. You and I have been doing these top 25 lists, it feels like, for months and months and months. And son of a gun, if a lot of these horses didn't end up in this field. So what are your thoughts on this Derby field?
Well, like the guys had said already before me, very well balanced. Many horses are going to take a lot of action. A lot of money is going to go to probably, I'm going to say 6 to 8 of these horses, and the other 12 will be big bomb prices. But 6 or 8, maybe even 9 or so of these horses are going to take a bunch of money, which is going to make for a great betting race. Plenty of storylines. You got the Japanese horses coming in. You've got the long layoff or confidence game. You got Two Phils coming off, you know, the synth. You've got all types of storylines. I don't know. It's a great race. And again, I think there's 6 or 8 horses that are going to take a bunch of money. Makes for a great betting race. And Forte, like one of you guys mentioned before me, at 3-1 morning line, if you love Forte, and who wouldn't, the horse has done nothing wrong. It's a champion. He's just done everything correctly. At 3-1, if you like him, go. But I mean, it's a good balanced betting race, and nobody stands out as the lock. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I same song, second verse for me. I mean, really the same kind of impression you guys have. Very wide open field. It'll be interesting to see what Forte ends up at by post time. Obviously, sometimes these favorites can get hammered down, but if you listen to horse racing Twitter, I don't know one person who's picking Forte. So maybe Forte, floats up maybe even a little bit, and some of these other horses like Tapit Trice, Angel of Empire take on a little bit of money. But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting storylines you guys have touched on. The Pennsylvania bred Angel of Empire, pretty close to my heart as well, being a Pennsylvania bred myself. And you have the post position draws have added a little bit of intrigue. DERMA SOTOGAKE, can he overcome the UAE Derby curse and the dreaded post 17 curse? So if he wins, that's going to be I don't know, go out and buy some more lottery tickets or something like that, because a lot of crazy things are happening that day. But yeah, it is it's a very competitive field. It's a very even field. And the one thing I'll just add to this discussion is when I look over this field, I don't see a lot of big time sires next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I think Forte, I think maybe Tapit Trice. But I'm really hoping this is a crop that can replenish the handicap division next year and for years to come, because I want to see some of these horses running at 4 years old and 5 years old, because I think there's a lot of really nice horses that may not be elite horses. They may not be elite pedigrees. They may not be elite in the siring barn, but I do have a feeling they could be really, really fun horses to watch at 4 and 5 and 6 years old. Maybe even make it as late as Rated R Superstar at 10 years old. We'll see. But listen, these are the 20 horses that are in the starting gate, but unfortunately, a few horses didn't make it there. And I feel like we didn't set it up this way, but Colin, I'm going to kick it to you first. If you could talk about maybe a horse that you're disappointed about, because we all have horses that we like to follow, and some horses weren't able to get into the Kentucky Derby. And so, Colin, I'm interested, is there a horse that you're disappointed is not running in this year's Kentucky Derby?
There you go. I thought you did this question just to get logins into the show. I love it now that when people are taking pictures of logins, I get added. I get tweeted on Twitter. That's how I know I've made it as like a login super fan. So thank you to Kevin Kilroy, who took some pictures of Loggins, who was in the barn. I asked him, what's the update? Loggins hasn't been in training. So, but that's my most disappointing horse that really, I mean, let's think about it. He's the only horse that's really given Forte a run for his money. If you want to add MAGE in there, sure. But Forte, Loggins is the only one that's been able to hang tough with the champ. So,
All right, who hit the button? I was hovering over it.
That doesn't get you.
That was me.
I don't know what it is. So
Sorry.
Thanks for putting that question in this show.
Yeah,
I was going to let him finish, but yeah.
All good.
It was well overdue. Good.
It was well overdue. But Loggins certainly is a horse that we were all excited about as a 2-year-old. Not unfortunately in this race. But El Hombre, is there a horse that you're disappointed that didn't make the Kentucky Derby this year?
Well, a couple of Cali horses come to mind. Go Rocket Ride was looking really well. I thought he was on a transition to, he was kind of leaning towards getting better each race. I thought he was on the trajectory to do well. And then Cave Rock, of course. So you want to see the horse that was right there with Loggins as one of the better horses in the 2-year-old division. And I don't know. Other than that, I think most of them made it. Yeah. But those two come to mind for me.
Yeah, so for me, it was interesting. I think that Instant Coffee is a horse that comes to mind who just kind of, was on the Derby trail and won a few Derby preps, and then just, ran behind that glacial pace at the Louisiana Derby and wasn't able to really close the way that he normally does. And so he wasn't able to get in. I think he's a really, really good horse. Mandarin Hero is another horse that is probably going to end up going to the Preakness, who we saw really give Practical Move a run for his money out there at the Santa Anita Derby, coming over from Japan. Ultimately, though, I'm going to kind of dig deep in my bag, and I'm going to use a horse that I mentioned to you guys before we started recording, who is running on the Kentucky Derby undercard and making a debut at 3, and that's Extra Añejo, is a horse that I was super excited about in his debut, and we never saw him again. And so I'm a little bummed that he didn't make that progression, but I am thrilled that he is back. As Collins pointed out about Loggins not training yet, I'm glad that Extra Añejo is training and is now going to be back on the track for the Derby undercard. So a little bit of a silver lining there. Formula, what about you? Who are you disappointed didn't make it?
You guys went through a laundry list of great horses that I was thinking about, and there's one horse that I had on the top of my list that you guys didn't mention, and it's the other Super Baffert, Arabian Night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
That's
Good
the other
call.
one that I was thinking. We even, I think a few of us punted him up to the top of our list.
I
when
think he was number
started
one on
running.
me for my list
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it would have been, I mean, as much as we criticize Baffert and everything that's happened in the last 2 years and whatnot, he still generates some pretty amazing horses. It
Yep.
would have been lovely to see Arabian Night challenge for the Kentucky Derby.
Good call.
Yeah, that's a great call. Great call
Thank you.
on that. So, well, let's move to. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday, May 1st, and we just had the post draw earlier this afternoon. And so, El Hombre, I'm going to start with you on this one. In your opinion, who was the biggest winner or loser from the post draw? I know you were sitting on pins and needles waiting for that announcement of who was going to be on the number one post because you were afraid your boy Tapit Trice was going to draw the inside rail. And so I'm interested, winners or losers from this year's post draw?
I'm going to start with a couple losers, and I'm thinking verifying at the two holes is a little bit concerning. I don't want him to get in a super pace duel up at the 2 hole. Although I don't know what to make of that. I think DERMA SOTOGAKE, if you want to look at that, if you want to look at the curse, the 17 hole curse, has never won. Other than that, I think DERMA SOTOGAKE might be fine at the 17 hole. But just because of the curse, if you believe in that type of thing, I don't know. On the plus side, the horses that I thought drew well was the 6 KNIGSBARNS. I think that fits him well, fits his running style well. It's not going to hurt him. He might be able to jump out and do what he does. And the 14 and 15 Angel of Empire and Forte also, no harm done, no foul with that draw, because those two are going to get out together. They've got a slow horse on the inside of them, Sun Thunder. They might get clear, and they might. I think out of all the main contenders, they probably have the least to worry about.
Can you imagine them dueling at the end? Ooh, shivers. That would be awesome.
That would be the. I think, from a loser standpoint, I agree with you. You know, DERMA and that curse of the 17 post. Listen, he's already trying to overcome a lot of history with Japan being 0 for 2, UAE Derby winners being 0 for 18. Now horses breaking from the 17th post being 0 for lifetime. I think Kentucky Derby, that's certainly a lot to overcome in that spot. I do think. Obviously, verifying, I'm also a little worried about there, although he's got a lot of speed, and so I'm not quite as worried there. I actually went to 2 fills next door. I was not thrilled with that number 3 post draw for 2 fills because he doesn't have quite as much speed as verifying. There's a lot of speed on the inside of this post draw, and just so people can again see the field. You look at a horse like Verifying, Confidence Game, KNIGSBARNS, Reincarnate. Those are all horses that are going to be pretty forwardly placed from positions 1 through 7, basically. So I was a little worried 2 fills might get shuffled back. Tapit Trice, same sort of thing, maybe get shuffled back a little bit. I agree with you. I think, the favorites were kind of largely kept out of the fray. Forte, Angel of Empire, perfectly fine. Practical Move, a little bit of a loser, I think, a little further out in that 10 post. I'll also say a winner is, I have to give a shout out to my dad for conspiracy theories, because my father believes this is all rigged, and it's no mistake that the Japanese horse draws the far outside, and the other Japanese horse draws the post position that has never yielded a winner. So my dad believes that the Blue Bloods of Kentucky are out to get the Japanese, and this would certainly be a winning formula for that. So speaking of formulas, what is your biggest winner loser from this draw? Because you look at post positions a little differently, I think, than the rest of us.
Absolutely. If you watch my video on post positions, you'll see that I do look at them a little bit differently. I think El Hombre, with your winner, I'm going to go with Verifying. I do think the 2 is actually an advantage, and an advantage for Verifying as well. If you watch my video, I've got that as a +2. Verifying is a horse that you and I have talked about, and you're on a different side of the fence of him than I am. You were actually a Verifying fan, whereas I am maybe a detractor. Can't say I hate the horse, obviously, but I think the two slot fits him well. Obviously, there might be some bumping at the very beginning, but I think running a shorter distance from the 2 spot is going to be an advantage for him. When I look at disadvantages, we talked about DERMA SOTOGAKE. But again, if you watch my video, anyone after that 15 spot, I see as a drop off in terms of where they're going to finish versus where we expect them to finish. So pretty much everyone after that spot, I'm thinking, has a little bit of a disadvantage here.
Interesting analysis. Colin, what's your thoughts on winners, losers from this year's post draw?
To me, the absolute two losers are the 5 and the 10, Practical Move and Tapit Trice. If you watch my videos on Practical Move, I watched all of his replays. This horse has been has had the advantage of running on a fast track at Santa Anita. He's had the advantage of always getting into the rail and saving ground. He's outside all of the speed in the 10 spot. Were you concerned about his sire, Practical Joke, in the distance? He would have got beaten by Mandarin Hero with a little bit extra distance in the Santa Anita Derby. I think he is absolutely in the loser for the draw here. Tapit Trice, I know I'm a little concerned about Tapit Trice because in those same replays I've watched, he's a horse that wants to be outside. I mean, if you watch his, I think it was his second or third race, 2 or 3 back, I'm sorry. He had 4 horses line up in front of him, and the jockey immediately pulled him all the way out to the right to get to the center of the track. He has gone, I mean, the ground's not a problem for Tapit Trice because we've seen him run 5 wide around the track the whole time. I'm concerned that he's gonna need a little bit of a rich strike type what I'm trying to say here, path.
Maneuver, yeah.
Finish there. Winner for me is 4, Confidence Game. This horse bounces out of the gate the best that I've seen in this field. Go back and watch this horse break from the gate. He had one race where he needed to be rushed up, and he ended up being 5 wide on that one. Every other race, he kind of like drops his body and shoots out. He's got a big ass, which I like. And I think
we have a drop for that.
What are we talking about here? What are we talking about?
So I think Confidence Game really has a good spot in there. She's going to be able to save ground. The 10-week layoff, of course, we talked about is the big question mark, but I don't think that he's been disadvantaged by the post position that he got.
I love it, and we're going to have to get a new drop for I like big butts, and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. All right. So I love it, and this is the sort of analysis you get. You get Tom with box plots, and you get Colin talking about a horse's ass. And so, and he's not talking about me, so that's the benefit there at least. So listen, let's move on to a topic of conversation that this year at Kentucky Derby time, I feel like we are all conspiracy theorists looking at Zapruder film of the Kennedy assassination, the way we analyze the workout videos that inevitably pop up on Twitter. And so I'm going to use a little bit of an old McLaughlin group. If anybody's old enough or enough of a political nerd to remember that show, go around the horn and get everybody's kind of scale of 1 to 10. How much weight do you give to pre-Derby workouts? Because we've seen a lot of these videos, people analyzing these videos, saying this horse looks great, this horse looks like crap, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm interested, Formula, I'm going to start with you. Scale of 1 to 10, where do you hang on the pre-Derby workout videos?
Oh, it's probably a cold 2. I really could care less. I mean, I would rather see a horse in the race. I mean, if you go back to Baffert and the last 2 horses that he's won with, Medina Spirit and Authentic, he had them running through 6 furlong workouts, which look fairly impressive. But I mean, if you compare these things across the board, I mean, we had a 59.6 from Rich Strike last year. But I mean, you could compare that across the board to other horses that run better workouts in terms of times.
Right.
I don't go much off of look. A lot of people like, ooh, that looked like a good horse, but he ran a 52nd 4 furlong.
Right.
It does very little for me. If this isn't a maiden special weight, then I don't really care as much about that type of stuff.
I hear you on that. Colin, where are you on these Derby workout videos? Interested in your opinion on this.
Interested very much because we've watched these horses for so long that you're just dying for any content, as evident by people that are tuning into my show. But you know, it's like, you know, you're watching them get off the van to arrive at Churchill Downs, and you watch them walk in, and then you watch them doing circles, and you know, it's 2 weeks of just whatever I can digest. I love it, but when it comes to actually handicapping and deciding, not a ton. I mean, obviously, what we saw from Confidence Game, basically running a race. He was one that we paid attention to because he hasn't raced in 10 weeks. The Continuar got absolutely blown out by DERMA. So I don't know, like, not that I was going to play Continuar anyways, but now he's definitely really not going to be there for me. DERMA's been really crazy coming down the stretch, but if you start thinking about that, there's already enough information to take in. I'm not going to approach the workouts any more than I do when I look at the bottom of a sheet and go, oh, he was a bullet workout and he went 59 and 5 furlongs or whatever. And, you know, solid. So nothing to be too concerning.
Yeah. El Hombre, scale of 1 to 10. Oh yeah. Colin, what was your score on a scale of 1 to 10?
On how much I consider them? It'd probably be like a 2 or a 3.
Okay. El Hombre, what about you?
I'm going higher than them. I'm going to 4, which is still pretty low. Pretty low. Here's the thing. Like, I mean, just look at it this way. You've got 15, 17 different trainers involved, right? I think they all have different philosophies on how hard to push their horses. I mean, maybe you want to see what they've got speed-wise and see how hard you can push them for, whatever the distance that they're comfortable with as a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be different across the board with all the trainers. So what does that really prove? What it proves is how hard do you want to work the horse?
Yep.
There's a lot of trainers who don't want to work the horse real hard, knowing that Kentucky Derby is 6 days from now, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to push my horse to the limit 5 days out. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple for me. So I give it a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. And I don't know. I just think some trainers are going to push them harder than others. And
yeah,
I don't think there's any number you can put on it, but I really don't look at them that hard.
Yeah, I listen. When it comes to pre-derby workouts, and I guess I should have been more specific, it's really the pre-derby workout video analysis machine that I am completely out on, because I'm somebody who does like to look at work times. Like Colin, you mentioned, like I like to look, this horse worked the 59 and 1 5 furlong work. Okay, that makes sense. I like to look at that. The sort of video analysis is asinine in my opinion, because the other thing is, these, you see people making comments about DERMA and Continuar's workouts. They've never seen those horses work before a day in their lives. And now they're going to suddenly be experts on, well, that wasn't a good work. Well, wait a second. Was that how the horse worked before they blew out the UAE Derby? Yeah, it was actually, when you talk to them. When you talk to the Japanese riders, oh, no, it is typical to urge a horse down the stretch during a workout. It is not something that you see in North America. And so there's just even that, like, how many times have you actually seen two fills work? How many times have people watched, Angel of Empire work? How many times have people seen Reincarnate work? Not many. And so now suddenly, the week of 2 weeks before the Derby, we're going to dissect every single stride mechanic to suddenly go, oh, well, this is the horse based upon this one grainy video I've seen at 5 o'clock in the morning on Churchill Downs from 50,000 feet up. This is the horse that I'm going to end up going with. Stop it. It's the
Zapruder film on Crown Pride last year, right?
Exactly. And so there was plenty of reasons to fade Crown Pride. That wasn't one of them. And so it's just, these are, I just think there's a whole industry, a cottage industry that I think is a racket around this. Listen, workouts are great, but I think the analysis of this sort of stuff is way overblown. And it's just, it speaks to, Colin, to your point. People are deprived of content. They want more content, and they want to see their horse, their pick, run on the Derby and run in the Churchill Downs, see how they look, that sort of thing. So that's my hot take for the day. Listen, one of the things
Matt,
we love to do.
Interrupt for a second.
Of course.
Maybe we could get some evidence from the grassy knoll to go along with the Zapruder film, because this is what the people want. This is, I mean, it's incredible. We're talking.
I saw a grassy knoll there, so
yeah, we want grainy. We want
just
evidence. Just dissect it as deep as you can. But yes, I agree that it's a Zapruder film being brought up 3 or 4 times. I couldn't resist it. It's great.
No, it is.
Back into the left.
So, listen, one of the things we like to do here on Trust the Prophets is try to find value. And so I am interested, as we sit here today, now that we have the morning line out, and we can pop that back up again just so people can see. But now that we have the morning line out, I'm interested, Colin, I'm going to start with you on this one. What long shot do you think is most likely to sneak into the trifecta? And by long shot, I mean 15, 20 to 1 or higher. Where are you looking in terms of a long shot you feel pretty confident is going to get in that top 3?
I'm looking at 2 horses, and Matt, we did our previews of many of these races, and
we did.
Mr. Reincarnate, who I told you I'm done. I'm not going back to the well. He's disappointed me twice. I was all over him, and I finished 3rd. And now I'm saying, wow, 50 to 1. I don't think he's going to be 50 to 1, but that's a price. The formula wanted the Baffert horse. Well, there you go. There's your Baffert horse is Reincarnate under the Tim Yakteen barn. That would probably be one that you like it in Jew, is that?
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Colin.
That would probably be one that I'm interested in. And then the other one would be Disarm. I think Rosario jumping aboard this horse really kind of quickly is intriguing. I think that we now know that Disarm was only trying to get the points in the Lexington finishing third. So those that are looking at the Lexington saying, oh, that's a horse I'm not betting, are not playing that right and not doing the proper work on what Disarm could be. He's worked out great. Not to talk about workouts, but
no, yes, but I talking about them, I think is fine. It's just, yeah. But no, I think those are two good ones. El Hombre, where are you looking for a long shot that you think is going to hit the board in the try?
Wow, Colin's daydreaming here with those two, but you're going to get a giant price. I mean, Colin, I love you, brother, but if either of those, by the way,
let's hear your knowledge.
One on Reincarnate, a little bit tough. That was a tough morning line, but I think 30 to 1's fine.
Yeah.
Verifying and Mage. Those are my two. They're both 15 to 1 morning line. I think they're both capable of winning the race, not just getting on the board. They're both capable of winning. They both lost to horses that are like the two elite horses in the field, according to the morning line.
Yep.
Forte and Tapit Trice. They both lost by, a head bob or a half a length or less.
Yep.
I like both of them.
I call foul on that because I thought it was going to be higher than 15-1. You take the 2 to 1 shot.
I said 15.
I said 15 ahead of time.
The line.
I think 15 to 1 was set as the long shot.
It was.
It's in my notes.
I did set that. And well, listen,
Colin, and my two choices happen to be 15 to 1. So yes.
Yeah, I will. I'll go one up from El Hombre, and the two that I'm looking at actually that I feel that I've been interested in playing is the number 4 Confidence Game and the number 9 Skinner. I think Confidence Game at 20 to 1. I am kind of I've kind of done a 180 on Confidence Game. He was like an instant toss initially, and now I'm like, something, maybe this 8 furlong work followed by a 59 flat 5 furlong work. Maybe Keith DeSormo is just crazy like a fox and knows exactly what he's doing with this horse, like holding him out for 70 days between races. Colin, you kind of mentioned that he can break really well. He's versatile. We saw him win from off the pace in the Rebel. He can win from on the pace as well. They made a statement that they're planning on running in all 3 Triple Crown races with this horse. So like they clearly have plans with this horse. So the Confidence Game's one. And then Skinner, who just drew in last week because of the very, very unfortunate, obviously, breakdown of Wild on Ice. But Skinner draws in. I think he's a super live horse at 20 to 1. I like him a lot. And people are now projecting there might be a little bit of a faster pace. I know David Aragona time form pace indicator just came out as we were recording this saying hot pace. He sees DERMA SOTOGAKE up front, actually, on that hot pace. I disagree with David on that, but we'll save that for another day. But if it is going to be a hot pace, Skinner's a very, very good closer who I think is shown a lot of ability out in that California circuit. So those are the two I'm looking at. Formula, what about you? Where are you going for a long?
Had to drop in Skinner one time there. Try not to walk over people. But yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this. I am going with a 50 to 1 shot. I am going with Sun Thunder. Where is he on here? I can't find that.
13.
Yeah,
Lucky number 13.
There it is, 13. Lucky number 13. El Hombre loves it. I can tell. Whereas he goes safe and goes with the 15 to 1s, I go deep with the 50 to 1s. And my reasoning behind Sun Thunder is simple, right? So it all goes back to the formulas and the data models that I put together. The thing I like about Sun Thunder is he trips some of the same sensors that Rich Strike tripped last year, and a couple other horses have tripped earlier in the year. King Russell, when he was running in Louisiana Derby, it was one of
Arkansas Derby.
Arkansas Derby. Thank you. Every once in a while, one will post a very large closing power, and that will correlate to the horse jumping up quite a bit from where he was before. If the pace gets set too high, horses drop back, but this horse has a lot to push forward. I see the same thing in Sun Thunder, so that's why I'm putting him as my value play, my long shot that could make it in at like 3rd place or something.
Love it. Love it.
Oh, it's a chunky!
I'll take it.
All right. Well, before we get to everybody's pick for the Kentucky Derby, there's also the idea of what is we listen. If you log on to horse racing Twitter for any amount of time, there is inevitably some thread. How do we save the sport? How do we engage new people in the sport? How do we grow the sport? There's literally a thread devoted to that every single day on horse racing Twitter. So one of my questions, and El Hombre, I'm going to start with you, is what is the best storyline coming out of the Kentucky Derby? If you had to just say, if I want to get the front page on ESPN for the next week, if I want horse racing to blow up, what's the best story that they could have coming out of the Kentucky Derby?
I'm going to give you two, babe.
All right.
The first one being Forte, who is the Breeders' Cup champion, the 2-year-old champion, who is, he's done everything correctly.
Yep.
He's a big name. He's coming from big connections, big trainer. He's done everything right. Florida Derby champion. Forte is going to come in as the morning line favorite, and if he wins, I think it's good for the sport. I mean,
I agree.
Everybody wants to see like the Mike Tyson, who was a champion for years, the Evander Holyfield, whatever.
Air Jordan.
Yeah, you want Jordan to win 6 titles. You want the Boston Bruins to get beat last night. You want all this and that.
That's just way too soon. Whoa. Come on.
Sorry, Colin. Oh, Colin dropped. Yes. Now I piss people off.
Colin, come back, please. All right. We need to get Colin back.
All right. That was for the Red Sox beating the Tigers a few years ago. You guys get it. But no, I think Forte is a great story. I think it's good for the sport. You want to see the chalk eating. Yep, you get it. My other one is DERMA SOTOGAKE, who I'm actually against. And coming to the 17 hole you just mentioned, the 17 holes never won. A UAE Derby champions never won. All these things against them. But I do think that a Kentucky Derby champion coming from Japan, a UAE Derby champion, I just think it's good for the sport in general.
Yeah,
I think that's a great story too. But those two.
Yeah. Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. Those were the exact two storylines I was also thinking. I think the potential for a Triple Crown winner, and I think Forte presents maybe the best opportunity for that, or at least maybe not the best opportunity, but from a public perception standpoint, like you said, champion 2-year-old, not been done since Nyquist, where you've seen a champion 2-year-old come back and win the Kentucky Derby. So it's been a minute, and obviously be able to get a lot of excitement going into the Preakness. And then, if DERMA or certainly if Continue R at 50-1, I mean, that would be a huge long shot, a huge upset if Continue R were to win as well. So, the internationalization of the sport is something, I've talked about a lot, and, certainly that would be, I think, beneficial. So those are two that really come out to me. Formula, what about you? What's a good storyline in your opinion coming out of this year's Derby?
So there's one storyline that I think would be the greatest to come out of all this, and that's if Sun Thunder won, and people could look back at this video and see how great I was in predicting that.
I thought it was interesting.
No, but my real storyline here is if Hit Show wins, and we can stop talking about how there's a curse in the one hole. Just get rid of that altogether. Hit Show wins. Brad Cox. Let's get rid of that curse.
He's a big anti number one hole. He's big on the one hole fallacy.
Yeah. I like it. That's actually really interesting. Colin, what's your storyline coming out of the Kentucky Derby in an ideal world?
Yeah, I mean, DERMA was mine. You guys both said that, so I'll give you something new. To me, it's just an exciting race that captures the headlines, right? Like, let's see, like you said, imagine if it's Angel of Empire and Forte and Tapit Trice coming down the stretch together, and you got 3 horses coming down to the wire. And then I'll play off of that. The only other thing would be something like Rich Strike, where you get a 50-1, like a Raised Cane winning. But the most important thing would be that Raised Cane then comes back and runs in the Preakness, because my friends that were, big horse racing fans, when they found out Rich Strike wasn't going to run again, I said, hey, look, it's a good thing for the sport. I'm glad to see that they're doing what's right for the horse. They said to me, well, I'm not going to watch because I want to see the horse go for the Triple Crown. So, you have to balance that. We all want what's right for the horse, but I think that those would be the two big things that will grab it again if you got another 50-1. But I think any really exciting race that comes down to the wire with 3, 4, maybe even 5 horses, that's gonna grab the attention of a lot of people.
No, that's a great point. And I will give a very quick shout out to 2 Phils. That would, I think, be a fun story with Larry Ravelli and Jareth Loveberry, both first time at the Kentucky Derby. So I think that would be a fun kind of that would be a very inside horse racing type of story, but I think a very fun one to have potentially.
You have horses like KNIGSBARNS and MAGE, who would be amazing stories as well. Like there's so many. There's too many. Right. It's crazy this year.
Yeah, you're right. With those two in particular, having only run 3 career races before the Kentucky Derby, now stepping up and Formula, to your point, that would dispel some of the, a 2-year, if they don't run it as a 2-year-old, you can't win, this kind of lack of foundation argument that you always hear going back to Justify. So very interesting. But listen, going to put everybody on the spot here. We've already all done our fastest 2 minutes, but that was a couple weeks ago, so things might have changed. And so we're just going to go formula. Going to start with you. Who you got?
Hasn't changed. Angel of Empire, post position or not, I'm going AOE.
All right, Colin, what about you?
I'm still between three. That would be Confidence Game, Angel of Empire, and DERMA SOTOGAKE. If I had to pick one of those three, I would probably land on, I guess, Angel as well. It's Angel and DERMA SOTOGAKE at the top. I'd probably land on Angel.
All right. El Hombre, I know he's your boy. You were pounding me on the back at the Florida Derby when he was coming down the stretch. And are you still going to stick with Forte?
I'm definitely not against Forte, but because of the odds, I like Tapit Trice a little better. With the draws, a little bit tough. But Angel of Empire is just grown on me and grown on me. If that 8-1 is anywhere near reality, I'm in. Angel of Empire, Forte. I will say this: I'm not going to bet anybody hard on a win bet because I don't believe in any. I think they're so balanced, which is great for the sport, for the betting, all this. There's going to be a lot of exacta and trifecta bet here by me.
Yeah,
and it's going to involve KNIGSBARNS, Tapit Trice, Verifying, Forte, and Angel of Empire. Those 5. So there you go.
I love it. And so this is really funny because we did not plan this ahead of time. And in terms of finding out what we all went with, but my pick is going to be Angel of Empire as well. And so he went up to number 1 in my last ranking. He was the horse that I felt was, has continued to impress me. And I will say one of the things that really impressed me about it was Flavien Prat taking about 0.2 seconds to decide whether he was going to run KNIGSBARNS or whether he was going to run Angel of Empire. Yeah. And he said, give me Angel of Empire, despite the fact he really doesn't have a very long relationship with Brad Cox in a lot of ways. He's got a much deeper relationship with some of these other trainers. So I thought it was really telling that he went immediately to Angel of Empire. I think at 8-1 on the morning line, he gives you all the value. I made the joke earlier. I'm a Pennsylvania bred. He's a Pennsylvania bred. I like that connection a lot. And listen, DERMA, I really, really like a lot. I've been pounding the drum for the Japanese horses. I think DERMA SOTOGAKE is going to run his heart out. I think he's absolutely going to hit the board this year, but I do have Angel of Empire winning, and I'm really rooting hard for 2 fills as well coming in from that 3 post. Don't know if he'll be able to do it from there, but that's where I'm going to be. At least my heart is going to be a little bit there. So, fellas, thank you so much for doing this today. This was a lot of fun. And I just want to say on behalf of all of us, thank you to all of you who have been watching, subscribing, commenting, engaging on all of our videos. We really appreciate all of the interest we've generated there for this Kentucky Derby season. Make sure to press that subscribe button.
I'm glad El Hombre's out of jail too.
Yeah, El Hombre's out of jail. Yeah, he's walking the straight and narrow these days, and
probation.
So he's all right. Yeah, he's served his double secret probation that we put on him, and so just like I said, thank you again for all the engagement. Really appreciate it. And for the formula, for Colin Sheehan, for El Hombre, my name is Matthew DeSantis. Wishing you a great and prosperous day at the Kentucky Derby, and reminding you, it is now post time.